In the news tonight, Jordan pays tribute to His Majesty the late King Hussein, celebrating his birthday anniversary. His Majesty the King congratulates US President-elect Donald Trump and offers to work with him to further strengthen ties. Residents continue to flee eastern Mosul as Iraq government forces continue their advance to retake the city from Daesh terrorists. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. Jordan marked the 81st anniversary of the birth of His Majesty the late King Hussein, who reigned for nearly 5 decades. Throughout his reign, King Hussein worked hard to enhance the country and raise citizens' living standards. He also focused on building an economic and industrial infrastructure that advanced the quality of life for Jordanians. On the occasion, His Majesty King Abdullah and His Royal Highness Crown Prince Hussein received cables from senior officials and officers. His Majesty King Abdullah and Queen Rania visited the tomb of the late King Hussein, where they laid wreaths and recited verses from the Holy Quran. A number of royal family members also visited the tomb of King Hussein. The lower house observed a minute of silence and recited verses from the Holy Quran as the kingdom paid tribute to His Majesty the late King Hussein, builder of modern Jordan. Speaker Atif Tarawna said the country remembers with national pride and faith its late monarch, who made its glory navigating through the challenges and sparing it destruction and threats that are still posed to it. He said the Hashemites had a long history of turning the hardships into opportunities for progress and prosperity. During its session, the legislature elected members of its permanent committee and 8 other panels, including the one on foreign relations. His Majesty the King called US President-elect Donald Trump to congratulate him on his victory or in his election victory. King Abdullah told Trump during the telephone call that he is looking forward to working with him to bolster the strategic partnership between Jordan and the United States and build on relations in the various fields. Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki joined officials at the opening ceremony of the Amman Rotana Hotel in Abdali in downtown Amman. Al-Mulki, deputizing for His Majesty the King, unveiled a plaque during the ceremony, attended by the Senate and lower house speakers, ministers and officials, as well as Lebanese businessman Bahauddin al-Hariri. The $280 million 5-star hotel consists of 412 rooms and also houses a gym, a spa, a pool deck and restaurants spread over 50 floors. Chairman of Rotana Hotel Management Corporation Ltd, Nasser Al-Nawais, said the hotel's opening emphasizes the kingdom as a tourist destination and cultural and historical hub. Rotana Hotel Management Corporation is a hotel management company in the Middle East, Africa, South Asia and Eastern Europe region. It has a portfolio of over 100 properties in 26 cities and operates 5 sub-brands which include Rotana Hotels and Resorts. Residents of eastern Mosul fled areas in the east of the Iraqi city as the fighting between government troops and Daesh militants intensified. The fierce battle in Mosul's eastern districts is leaving residents fleeing in constant threat, even after our army advances in their neighborhoods. Special forces and a tank division are fighting to expand their foothold in the east of Mosul for nearly 2 weeks. But they face stiff opposition from the terror group's fighters, who have launched waves of suicide bombers, sniper attacks and ambushes against them. More than 54,000 people have been displaced so far in the campaign. Hundreds of civilians who fled the fighting last week are stranded without basic humanitarian assistance. Iraqi soldiers also began the painstaking task of securing the remains of the ancient city of Nimrud a day after driving out Daesh militants. Nimrud's palace and temples, once at the heart of an empire which stretched across the Middle East, were razed by Daesh terrorists after they swept through northern Iraq in 2014, destroying historic sites they declared idolatrous. The Russian Defense Ministry said a MiG-29 fighter jet crashed in the Mediterranean after taking off from its Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier. The announcement came as airstrikes hit 2 hospitals in rebel-held territory west of the Syrian city of Aleppo. A monitor and doctor said a number of patients and medics were wounded. Both Moscow and Damascus say their air campaign is directed against rebel targets. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group said warplanes pounded the town of Al-Atarib overnight and into the morning, knocking its hospital out of service. It said there were 5 airstrikes on the hospital that destroyed operations and waiting rooms and damaged ambulances. Drone footage by Aleppo Media Center showed destroyed buildings and rubble on the streets in the eastern neighborhood of Al-Sha'ar. It showed complete destruction of the area, with some buildings razed to the ground and streets filled with rubble. Western countries and human rights activists have accused the Syrian Air Forces and its Russian ally of targeting hospitals, bread lines and other civilian infrastructure in territory controlled by the rebels. At least 14 people were killed in central Yemen in airstrikes on fuel trucks by the Arab coalition fighting in the country. Brigadier General Ahmed al-Asari, spokesman for the Saudi-led coalition, said the convoy was en route from Ib province carrying ammunition and other supplies for Houthi and allied forces near the city of Taiz. Medics and witnesses said at least 11 other people were wounded in the attack, in which 2 tanker trucks parked on a road were hit. A medical source said the local hospital received the bodies of 10 people, including 1 soldier. The official said 15 wounded people were also brought to the hospital, some of them in serious condition. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump chose Washington insider Reince Priebus as White House Chief of Staff and firebrand conservative Stephen Bannon as Chief Strategist. The decision shows a willingness to work with Congress and gives a nod to right-wing activists who helped sweep him into office. Trump's choice of Priebus, the Republican National Committee chairman and friend of House of Representatives Speaker Paul Ryan, could help him prepare his strained relations with members of the Republican Party establishment in Washington. But Trump gave the job of strategist and senior counselor to Bannon, a firebrand conservative and fierce critic of Ryan. New Zealand faces billions of dollars in damage from the powerful earthquake that hit the country. But officials say the government's strong balance sheet means it will have little trouble footing the bill. Central New Zealand was hit by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake, killing at least 2 people, destroying road and rail links and damaging hundreds of buildings. Strong aftershocks continued throughout the day. Here's more.
At least 2 people were killed in a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in central New Zealand on Monday. The tremor struck just after midnight, about 90 kilometers northeast of Christchurch in the South Island. Massive cracks formed in the highways and homes were crumbled to their foundation.
Caravan started shaking and we wake up with a big fright, what's going on? Look outside, see the cars moving around, the caravans moving.
Several aftershocks continued to rattle the area throughout the day. The strongest measured 6.2 magnitude. Prime Minister John Key said the damage has cut off roads and access points, leaving people stranded and emergency crews unable to reach affected areas.
Off the only way through is flying people in and out. There's quite a number of tourists now who are ultimately stuck with international connections, so we'll have to think about that. There's also the longevity of the businesses here that in the short term aren't going to get a lot of custom, because again there's no access point in and out. That's probably relatively simple compared to the damage to the road. So the slips here are horrendous, to put a final point on it, and you've got to believe it's in the billions of dollars to resolve these issues.
Christchurch is still recovering from the 6.3 magnitude quake in 2011 that killed 185 people.
The UN Weather Agency said the world is set to reach a new heat record in 2016 as global warming stokes more floods and rising sea levels. The heat, with impacts such as melting ice in Greenland and damage to Australia's Great Barrier Reef, was stoked by an El Nino weather event in the Pacific early in the year, along with man-made greenhouse gases, mainly from burning fossil fuels. The World Meteorological Organization (WMO) said at climate change talks in Marrakesh, Morocco, that this year would be the warmest since records began in the late 19th century, with average surface temperature 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times. 16 of the 17 hottest years recorded have been in this century.
The first on instrumental record so far, and if you look at the first 9 months of this year, we are fairly high up again, and we are breaking all the records. And it's likely that we are going to reach this year 1.2 degree warming level, and we are going to a little bit the wrong direction if you think of this 1.5 degree warming level, which was agreed last year in Paris.
The largest, brightest full moon in nearly 7 decades appeared in Sydney skies, one of the first cities to witness the spectacle. People, mostly tourists, were seen climbing up the Sydney Harbour Bridge to get a better view of the spectacle dubbed the super moon. The moon will pass within 348,400 kilometers of Earth's surface, about 35,400 kilometers closer than average. About every 14th full moon is a supermoon, and the next time a full moon comes as close to Earth will be in 2034. Canadian tennis player Milos Raonic defeated his French opponent Gael Monfils in straight sets at the ATP World Tour Finals. Raonic was in a good form ahead of a showdown with world number 2 Novak Djokovic, with his 6-3, 6-4 win offering not a single break point to Monfils in a dominant display. Monfils, making his first appearance at the ATP Finals, had no answer to Raonic, who scored 12 aces in the match, including on match point. Also at the ATP World Tour Finals in London, Japan's Kei Nishikori dispatched Euro-Struwin Swiss Stan Wawrinka 6-2, 6-3 in a one-sided clash. From the opening game, when Wawrinka had to save 2 break points, the 31-year-old struggled and Nishikori got the first break in the 5th game. Nishikori, who could still finish the year at a career-high 3rd in the ATP rankings, claimed some revenge for his year's US Open semi-final loss when he broke against the end to the contest after Wawrinka wafted a lazy backhand over the baseline. And finally, a bit chilly tonight in high elevations, but fair in many areas across the kingdom with light and variable winds. A slight drop in temperature is expected tomorrow, creating fair conditions in the hilly areas and also mild in the rest of the country. Low clouds are also in the forecast for much of the western region, with northwesterly moderate to brisk winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should look for a warm day tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here are our top stories once again. Jordan pays tribute to His Majesty the late King Hussein, celebrating his birth anniversary. His Majesty the King congratulates US President-elect Donald Trump and offers to work with him to further strengthen ties. And residents continue to flee eastern Mosul as Iraqi government forces continue their advance to retake the city from Daesh terrorists. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Leo Balkar. Have a good night.